Welcome to Retirement Key Radio with Abe Abish.
Abe, people can always contact you through retirementkeyradio.com. The entire team at Abish Financial, heck, everyone listening, following the rules to be socially distanced so that we can stay safe and flatten the curve, as they say. I just ran downstairs before the show to get a little caffeine, and the house behind me, we don't have a fence between our houses. I'm waiting on them to put up the fence. You ever do that? You're like, well, if they put up the fence,
right,
then that's less fence I have to put up. So the teenage son is home from college because of everything going on. He is doing jump rope on the deck. Like, wouldn't you go on the grass for that? Or is that better to do on the back deck?
Maybe even the pavement?
Maybe, I would think. I don't know. But we're seeing so much more of that, so much more activity. What are you seeing in your neighborhood?
Well, we've been going out for weekly bike rides, seeing a lot of pedestrian traffic, a lot of people walking around, a lot more people taking walks, and seeing a lot of people doing gardening.
Okay.
A lot more gardening going on, and the kids are out and playing. Just a lot more foot traffic outside than normal, I think.
I have to tell you something really fun I did with my neighbors. I live on a cul-de-sac. We were craving Mexican, and our favorite local Mexican spot is independently owned by a family. I placed the order, sat there in my car to pick it up, texted, hey guys, I'm on the way back. One husband took it upon himself to take all the patio furniture, put it out, and get my big speaker that I have out of my garage that could blast anybody out of the water and play Mexican music. So we felt like we were at the Mexican restaurant. It almost felt normal for a second.
Cinco de Mayo is coming up, so you're maybe just celebrating a little bit early.
I forgot about that. I wish it were a joking matter what's going on with this virus, but unfortunately we still have a lot of health risk out there, and there's also a huge risk to our personal economy when it comes to a lot of baby boomers possibly losing their jobs. If that happens, that means that taking Social Security earlier or possibly drawing from their pensions earlier. So in other words, if a forced retirement happens to a baby boomer during this economic downturn, they're not going to have the income in retirement they had planned. It's probably going to be lower.
That's absolutely correct, Kristen, because of the market downturn and because they have been potentially laid off. We've been getting numerous calls about clients that have been laid off or furloughed or even their salaries cut in half just to keep as many people on the payroll as possible. One lady we just recently helped, she lives in Florida and she's in her mid-60s and she was planning on working 2 more years, and this next 2 years for her would have been huge. 2 more years of bringing in a few $100,000 a year in income, which she was earning, would have allowed her to save that much more, would have allowed her to pay off some debts and loans, so that way she could have as little of debt as possible when she retired. And so her, like a lot of people, they're going to be forced to retire early if they can't find work again. They're going to be forced to start tapping into assets and resources that maybe they wanted to defer and delay a few more years. So that can really have a huge impact on someone's retirement plan, Kristen.
And I think about not just baby boomers that are working and getting furloughed or laid off or have buyout options. There's that too, Abe. A lot of great companies within our listening area are facing that situation. Well, their employees are facing it because the companies try to keep things afloat. Have you had calls of people saying, hey, they've given me a buyout option. What do I do? Have you had any of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we come across that type of situation often. And so we can definitely help you if you're listening to the show right now with your pension options. And basically you want to run the numbers and you want to look at how much pension income can you receive from the pension versus perhaps doing it on your own. And you want to run those numbers to make sure you're making the best decisions for yourself. And we can help you to run those numbers. But when it comes to making up for potentially, losing income, Kristen, right at retirement, you want to really take a good assessment of what you have right now. And you want to do the best job you can to secure what you need for income in retirement. In other words, let's say, you had $1 million saved and you find out that you need $500,000 of that $1 million to create dependable, predictable income to sit on top, perhaps Social Security or a pension. You better do everything you can to secure that income that you need, right? And then the rest of the monies can be invested based on your risk tolerance and other goals and objectives. But you really need to take a thorough assessment of what you have right now with the downturn and after, potentially losing a job or being furloughed. In addition, I think it'd be a great time to go through your budget and figure out what expenses you can get rid of, what expenses can be lowered. So this lady in Florida that we just helped who lost her job, she was in a sales role earning a few $100,000 a year. She's going through her budget line item by item, seeing what can be eliminated, what can be reduced. And as we were going through her resources, Kristen, I found out that one of her mortgages, she has a primary mortgage and a rental. One of her mortgages, she was paying 4.75 or maybe around 5% for that loan.
In
and
this
I told
interest rate environment, wow.
Yeah. And I told her, hey, you can at least lower that rate by a full percent, maybe a little more. I think 30-year mortgage rates are down around maybe 3.5, 3.7, something like that. So a full point lowered on a mortgage loan with a few $100,000, can make a pretty big difference in a monthly payment. And if she can do that on her primary home and rental home, now we have the opportunity to maybe help her save, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. We would encourage her to contact a mortgage professional who could help her look into that. In addition, as we've already mentioned, you want to look at your risk tolerance. Okay, here's what we have saved. I'm 65 now. I could live another 30 years and I may not ever work again. Is this money going to last me the rest of my life? Is this chunk of money able to create the income I need on top of my pension and Social Security? And then what does my risk tolerance look like and how can I invest the rest? So I think it's a really good time to take a thorough assessment, whether you've been laid off or not. Is what you have saved enough? And if it is enough, perhaps you're taking on more risk than you need to. Perhaps you can reduce risk and still achieve the same goals and objectives that you set out to achieve. And if that's the case, you should really look at reducing risk and making changes now. We don't have to stick our heads in the sand and wait a couple months for this virus thing to be gone. We can make some proactive decisions and control what we can control.
If you are facing a furlough as a baby boomer or a forced early retirement or a pension buyout, these are all important decisions, the steps you take in that process, and you owe it to yourself and your family to make sure that you get it right. At Abish Financial Services, Abe and the team, they are on your side. So if you need insight about that specifically, they're happy to go through your options and help you with those numbers and budgeting anytime at retirementkeyradio.com. Well, if you've reached RMD age, you probably know by now that Congress is waiving this year's requirement because of the coronavirus downturn. And financial planner Jeff Levine says that if you don't need that money, you might want to consider withdrawing it and converting it into a Roth account. He tells Morningstar that that's something you wouldn't normally be able to do.
For individuals subject to required minimum distributions, they typically have to satisfy that required minimum distribution first. And then and only then can they convert on top of it. In other words, the RMD itself can't be converted. This year may be kind of a little bit of a golden opportunity in order to convert at lower income levels and replace what would be your normal distribution with a Roth conversion.
Abe, I've heard other people say that this is the best time ever to do a Roth conversion. It sounds like some of our listeners should consider this.
Absolutely. And we know most people that listen to WMAL are conservative politically, but even if you're not, if you believe that federal income taxes will likely be higher down the road than lower, and look, you just can't print a ton of money into the economy and then expect lower taxes, right? You would assume that someone's going to have to pay for these massive stimulus packages. And look, before the CARES Act came out here to help with this virus situation, we were already $23 trillion in national debt. Okay. So with all this additional money being pumped into the system, I firmly believe that at some point, and I don't know how high taxes will go or where they will go, but I firmly believe that taxes, federal income taxes, will be higher down the road than today. So if you're nearing retirement or in retirement, you could easily be paying more money in tax down the road than today. And if you believe that, like we do as a company, then perhaps now is a fantastic time, perhaps the best time in your life over the next 5 years through the year 2025 to purposely look, as the gentleman said, at withdrawing monies out of your pre-taxed accounts, IRAs, SEP IRAs, TSPs, 401ks, not to spend the money, but to say, hey, I want to pay taxes now. I know what tax rates and brackets are today. 20, 22, 24%. I think that's an extremely fair rate. And I'm going to pay my fair share now to society. I'm going to withdraw money out and convert into Roth IRAs. And we just helped a family who had the same sentiment that we do as a company, as far as them believing that taxes almost have to go up down the road than where they are today. And a fantastic time for this couple to look at conversions for 2 reasons. Number one, the wife's income just got cut in half. So she's on payroll, but they said in order to keep you on payroll, we have to cut your salary in half from about $100,000 down to $50,000. And she's doing the same work.
Wow.
But I'd rather take $50,000 as well than zero. And so she's down to half of the income that she was earning before. The husband isn't working. He's already retired, and the market's down. Okay. Now, what they were able to do before working with us last year is go into cash. And they realized they're about a year or 2 away before they retire. They didn't want to take on the risk. They wanted to know that their nest egg was there no matter what. So they went to cash inside the wife's 401k. They have about $600,000 in that account. So number one, her income's cut in half, okay, which should put her into a lower bracket. And number two, all this money she has is in cash. A great time to look at Roth conversions, because if they do a conversion, she's not pulling money out when the market's down. It's sitting in cash. In addition, their income is a lot lower. So we're going to run the numbers for them, put all that information into our tax planning software that can give people a very good idea of where they are in their tax bracket and how much room in their tax bracket they have to do a potential conversion.
Find out more at retirementkeyradio.com.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Abraham Abish is licensed in your state, please call 571-577-9968. Abish Financial Services is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Abraham Abish, NPM number 770-3575.